Rugby League, securing careers of African footballers, and also a conversation about the state of the game of tennis in Kenya. Those conversations will be coming later, but first we move over to the Sir Robert Stanley in Nairobi, where the Media Council of Kenya is releasing the State of the Media Survey, and speaking right now is Principal Secretary Esther Koimet. She's the Principal Secretary, Information. Let us listen in.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. As they set up the system, I want to acknowledge the presence of Joel Wawuru, Chair DBA, Madam Naktare and the IWAT team, the other complaints commissioners in here. I saw Judy Kaberia, Executive Director, AMWIC, and others. So thank you, and all the other representatives feel welcome. Now we get into the reason we're gathered here today. The State of the Media Survey 2021, performed under Article 6 of the Media Council Act, that we need to carry out an annual survey of the public perception of the media and publicize the report. Kitu tumewacha ni kwamba in two newspapers of national circulation. So kwa vile imesema hapo na Gitarama hata nikumbusha kwamba tupeleke huko, but we at least publicize the report. And I want to also add that the report remains public for consumption, especially from stakeholders. I will not bother with that. We used questionnaires to collect data on the ground across all 47 counties. I want to stress that we had a contract with a research company, but we mirrored it with our in-house team. We have more than 70 researchers as staff members across the country, so we mirrored that. And we also validated with at least 2 universities. The whole idea is that, because going down, I need to stress that this research is fully funded by the Media Council, with the funds allocated by the government, appropriated through Parliament. Because right on, when we will say nani yako 70%, mwingine 30%, we do not expect people to complain. And number 2 is that if anyone, that is public knowledge, will want to access the raw data as deep as you want, the forms that people filled and all that, it is available. So we are going to present figures here. We will say who was better and all that, but it's a research that we are ready to stand by and present any information anyone will need. The research was done between November 30 and December 19, and we had 3,589 respondents against a target of 3,500 respondents. That is basically, we broke down the guys to their religion. We had even 4 atheists here. We had SDA, Muslim, Protestant, Catholic, employed, unemployment, and all that. We broke that, the levels of education. The PhDs were not very excited about the research. Only 3 people spoke to us. Wengine wakakata prof. I think we have 2 PhDs, or at least 3 in this room. Please encourage the other guys to participate in research. This time as respondents. You know, a problem of PhD holders, they like asking questions. So wakiulizwa maswali hawataki kufuata. This time wambia wakiulizwa hata wanajibu. Broadcast media consumption. Most important is that there is, I want you to note the dates, November 30 to December 19. Those who follow politics, there was a bit of noise. The number of people who said, I do not watch TV, shot up from 26% in the year 2020 to 42% in the year 2021. That's a very high number of people who said. Remember in 2019, 2020 we had 27, then 26, but now it went up. But just to know that that was around some time when people were protesting about balance in TVs, people are biased and all that. It's a political season, so sometimes the findings are a little abnormal from what normally would be. So 42% of Kenyans say they do not watch TV, and 26 say they do not listen to radio. %58% they consume TV content on a typical day. That's about 16 million Kenyans. We had 72% the previous year. Northeastern and all Nyanza and Coast region do not consume TV content. Northeastern, not necessarily for political reasons. Sometimes it's about having access to the TVs, the matter of universal access, electricity, and having the set-top boxes. The people averagely spend 2 hours. Global average is 3 hours. I will skip that because we are going to have more figures. That is a summary. I will go to the real one. That is now a breakdown. Less than 30 minutes, 30 minutes to 1 hour, 1 to 2 hours, 3 to 4 hours, more than 6 hours. Nani wengi more than 6 hours, those are very idle. When you spend 6 hours watching TV, either you don't sleep or you don't work. But then we have the number of I do not watch TV. How do people access set-top box, the free-to-air? Nowadays they have the digital TVs that at least have several local channels. Online platform, you can see there's about 4%. Those are the guys who use YouTube and all that. The 20% are the people who use pay TV, Sky, DSTV, and those others. And then digital smart TV. You all know that nowadays the TVs come in with inbuilt set-top boxes. So that is a good percentage at an average of 13%. An important aspect now is the Kenyans' trust in foreign content. Up to 30% of Kenyans now rely on international and foreign content. Of course, if it's news, you know that the people will watch Al Jazeera, CNN, BBC, and the like. We will not roll out TV content includes Netflix that has come fairly popular, isn't it? And the supporters of football, that remains foreign, isn't it? So we have, that is 30%. And you'll notice that even in rural areas, we have up to 18% of the people watching that. So that means that even the people, there is a lot of interest in international content. Now, these TV stations were mentioned in at least one of the 3 most watched TV stations by respondents. How we framed our question was, which 3 TV stations do you watch? So we do not ask someone which one do you love and all that. That way then we had, everybody would mention 3, then you sample and see which has been mentioned more. Citizen TV, I'm doing the overall, 78%. KTN Home, 31%. NTV, 27%. That is, there's an improvement. I think last year we were at around 2021. Then we have Inoro. I want to mention KBC, 8%. I think last year we were talking 2 to 3% KBC, if you remember. So there has been a lot of Kituo cha Baba na Mama. There has been a lot of improvement. There is something they are doing right, continue doing it. Sijui kama ni wale veterans waliletwa, ama ni rumba ilirudishwa, something like that. But there's an increment. Most important, there is something called other channels below pale, 42%. And this will interest Bwana Wawero, is around DBA. We promise that the next research we release in May will break down the other channels. Because when we have 42 watching channels that are not here, then it means that we need to break them down so that we can benefit that. So we hope that our research tools will allow us to break down the others into specifics to help the advertisers and people placing messages. Radio is 74%. People, 74% of Kenyans consume radio. That's 21 million people. Not much different from last year. Radio is 2 hours, higher than the global average. Remember, for TV was 2 hours lower than the global average, which is 3 hours. But radio, we are higher because globally, I think most people listen to radio while they drive to the office or while they move from place to place. In Kenya, people will listen to the radio wakiwa kwa shamba or when they go to the market and all that. So our radio listenership is higher. Northeastern is very low, but 57. Coast 63, and Nairobi 69. Watu wa Nairobi wanna watch TV, not much of radio. Of course, you don't want to guess where radio inasikizwa sana. Do you want to guess? Maybe Western. You will notice something, that people watch news, 93%. 96% is entertainment, isn't it? And entertainment is anything. If it is, do you call it some things patanisho or whatever, and all the drama, the stuff they put in the morning. 72 is local, 28 is foreign content. 5 radio stations were mentioned. I want to see whether I have a better presentation of that. If there isn't, I'll go back so that I'm not running away from that. Still, we have Radio Citizen 27, Radio Jampo 22, Kameme 15, Radio Maisha 13, KBC Radio at 11. Still a major improvement from 4% last year, so something good is happening. But I want to mention something here. If you notice the results of last year, we had the leading radio almost at 70% and another coming down at 30 something. You notice that now the competition is very close. It's 27, 22, 15, 13, 11. That shows that there is a variety and people are learning. Because last year's results were very, the range between the most listened to and the second one was very wide. So there is I don't know whether it's variety or it's duplication or it's the demographics. The consumers think that they can, if they miss one thing, they can do another. My perspective, I think, is because of too much copycat. Sometimes if the radio does not put their signature tune, you will not know which is which. It is either a relationship talk at some point, across any, you land on any, it is the same thing, unless you know specifically who it is. Or we have some chit chat. I think a lot of vernacular radios are very notorious for putting waganga and witchcraft stuff. Those who listen know that. We have a problem around areas of Busia and the like, and Ukombani and now parts of the coast. So there's a lot of copycat content, isn't it? I think one of the reasons of the averages is about the content. Nobody is really diverse. Because when we had a lot of diversity, I think then everybody must have copied what the leading was doing. Sasa karibu wamefikiana. I do not listen to radio. Of course, you can see they are 28%. But the beautiful thing is that then the remaining 74%, they listen a lot of radio. 2 hours, 1 hour, 30 minutes. Of course, we have the more than 6 hours. It would seem strange, but if you imagine our demographics, there are people who go to the farm with their radio, isn't it? The others go to herd their cattle with their radio. And if you're on a long drive, you listen to radio, keep changing and all that. So, and the 6 hours, there are people who stay home and the radio is on all the time. So it shouldn't seem like we are full-time radio consumers. It's just because for those who have done mass communication and media consumption, radio can accompany you as you do your business. I believe that maybe when Gitagama in the office, people can radio kadogo, sometimes you can switch on, do stuff, hata kwa simu pia. So there's that explains why we have up to more than 6 hours, 5 to 6 hours and all that. How is radio content consumed? Set-top box, free to air, digital platform. FM radio consumers 85%, because the set-top box and kwa TV has radio channels, but mostly people have FM channels and a bit of the digital apps. Sometimes they are not very reliable, digital apps on radio, but a few people who have the apps are able to screen. They are not very reliable. They do a lot of buffering and all that, but they... How is it accessed across regions? Set-top box, of course, utapata imejaja Central, a bit of Northeastern, Nairobi. What you will realize set-top box is because most, if not all, set-top boxes have TV and radio. So nobody really buys a set-top box to consume radio alone. It's just that the channels there are distributed. But you see, most of the people are on FM radio. And then there is a digital app. I think there is this fine on it is confusing. The digital app ni kale kadogo kako huko mwisho. Foreign versus local TV radio content. Still the same. Radio is 28%. You notice that TV was 30%, isn't it? So on average, you could say about 30% of Kenyans appreciating international content. We are going to try to break it down later, whether it's sports or entertainment or Netflix and all that. We will hopefully try that. Our May 3rd findings will break down what this foreign content is. You know, we have, I think we have French, German, English, and Chinese now, isn't it? Do we have any other radio around, apart from the Tanzania's Radio Free Africa? I think that's basically what we have in radio. The China radio and television, France 24 radio and stuff like that. Of course, America VOA, Swahili and English, then the German Deutsche Welle and BBC. Those will be where this content is. Radio stations mentioned. Still, as I said, we framed the question asking people to mention the 3 most listened to. And as I said earlier, you notice that hakuna difference kubwa. In radio, others is 29%, that's about 30%. Still, a major number that can be broken. You will notice also that radio consumption is Swahili and vernacular. Our popular, the first English station, you know, Kochini at 3%, Kiss FM, then you will see Classic at 2%. But big percentages are up there. Kiswahili sana sana, Citizen, Jambo, then vernacular, then Maisha, KBC, and then we go down then to the Emos and Cass and all that, and Ramogi. I want to note, we did not check this, but I think from last year, I think Ramogi has dropped considerably. If I remember well, last year Ramogi was up there with Kameme around 3 or 4. We can check the facts again. But not to say, but if you're doing radio, be vernacular or do Swahili, then you can deal with your little English audience. Newspaper. Only 25% of those interviewed consume newspaper. This was also the same number last year. And I think it was the same number the other year, so the drop has stopped. What wameshikilia hapo kidogo kidogo. Where do they get the newspaper from? 46% of those who read newspapers are the ones who buy. The others are online subscriptions, 26, that is a good number. But then tuko na wale wengine wanaenda kwa social places, na wale wanaenda kwa vendor. Na wale kwenda kwa vendor ndio wamefanya siku hizi ukiona newspaper ikitoka, bwana kitagama wanaweka stapler. Sana sana newspaper za ushago, they come with a stapler and a sticker, isn't it? To avoid people going and nasema gazeti sijapeleka mahali. Mimi nimeangalia tu nikarudisha, not knowing that as long as they have consumed the content, then the value has gone. So I think that explains why we have the tendency to staple the newspaper or to put that. It looks like a branding thing, but tunajua ni ya kuzuia mtu asichukue asome kisha arudishe without paying. News, 73%. Purpose for newspapers is news. Politics, 61%, and sports, 47%. By politics, it's not necessarily news politics. We have also political commentaries, isn't it? and opinion pieces about politics. Many people will see, especially weekend papers, we have commentators, columnists who do politics, and it's not news. So, but it's still news. Bwana Gitakama, when he met the fellow bosses, was reduced budget ya newsroom sana. Bado newsroom ndio inauza hii, because you will see people who buy that for advertisements, lakini si wengi sana. Consumption. Daily Nation 59%, and that is more than double the next one. Standard newspaper 28%, and the People Daily, the one that we get free of charge, 5%. I don't know why people don't read the free paper. Ni town peke yake iko, because I expect everybody to be excited about that. Next slide. Online content. And here now we start appreciating new media, isn't it? The leader is Tuko News website, 34%. They followed by the Standard Group, 22, and NMG at 21. Wengine wako hapo chini. Newspaper readership nationally, 25% ndio wanasoma, and 75 don't read. The urban area is 30% in town, but Ushagoni 22%. And as you can see, our ladies still gazeti hawapendi sana, 16%. This figure has not changed over the past 2 surveys, around 25%. How do you access the preferred newspaper? Hard copy, 46%. I subscribe online. I read at the vendor's selling point. Mnaona kuna watu hapo wanasema wanaenda kwa mtu wanapigisha mtu akuuza gazeti story uongo, then they read. And then tuna watu wa free copies. And you will see the free copy is really aligned with the 5%, so we know we have one free circulation newspaper, isn't it? So apart from the 5% free circulation, we get then a few complimentary copies that are sent to strategic office. That's why you will see we're about an average of 5%. So ikatima paka 14% wa social place and the vendor's place plus 11. Karibu almost 30% of Kenyans read newspapers for free. They go and wanakunywa chai, wanasoma gazeti. But okay, it's allowed. Hotels do that for their customers. I already said that. A notable increment. Taifa Leo. Kwanza urban area wamekuja 3%. It was almost invisible in the previous survey, isn't it? I was telling Bwana Gitagama that ule jamaa anaandikaga headline ya Taifa Leo apewe increment ya mshahara kidogo. The headlines, they can annoy people from time to time, but I think it does a good job, isn't it? And the others, we have almost 4% kule chini for the others. But you notice that then the others are not really much, isn't it? They don't excite people too much. People are stuck at the Nation Standard, the People Star, and Taifa Leo. Also, I love Taifa Leo because it promotes Kiswahili, national language. Reason for buying a newspaper. News, 73%. Politics. Sports. Classified, display and adverts, 25%. I know Bonagwaro, the ministry publishes MyGov, where we have all government tenders and all that. That's where we do. I also saw an advert. Sizamani sana in one serious newspaper about kuja tukupatie irizi ya kushinda tenda ya serikali, and it was in the paper. I do not know where that falls in ethics, whether we can advise that we have a special magic to help you win a tender, we can pray for you to win a tender ya serikali. I do not know also how we want to treat where we see people saying adverts ya kurudisha mpenzi aliyepotea. na muganga maalum kutoka Tanga. They are reappearing again in the classifiers. Uko na number tudogo namna hii. We don't know how much ethics can get into that. But we have the Advertisers Code of Ethics that we are discussing, because in one case actually we saw the advert about you'll be given some magic stick to win government tenders. It was there, it went round a bit. Many people would be interested in that. So I think notable is that features and adverts contribute to the newspapers, and obituaries remain. But you know, the strange thing about obituaries is that people who buy a newspaper for obituaries are the people who are part of the committee. Committee jana ilipitisha tuweke hii announcement ya mazishi kwa matanga, isn't it? So naomba mninunulie gazeti tuone kama iliwekwa. The other average Kenyan doesn't buy. It's usually very inward looking, because the people in the committee or the family who knows that tutaweka kwa gazeti lini, itawekwa Wednesday. So the people who already know are the ones who look for that obituary. Is it true or false? Most of the people who know that it will be this day, they know the information to just confirm kwamba vile committee tuliambiwa tupitishe budget ya hiyo. I also noticed something the last time I wanted to put an obituary, that obituaries you pay cash up front. You don't issue LPOs. Because you know, when you lose loved ones, you can be very emotional. Useme tupatie 2 pages. Ikikuja kulipa inakuwa ngumu. So newspapers are very careful. Obituaries you pay before they put, because of the emotions around deaths. People can come and say, wekeni 1 page in italipa, after the burial utajipanga. Websites visited. We have the general web browser, you know, the Google search and all that. But after that, then we have Tuko, and then the main pages, social media pages. We will get a slide about that, and international websites, and then the search engine and all that. So, and then you see at 2% is Ghafla. I don't know what happened to them. They were going up something. They are doing something wrong. I think there's a time they were at 7%. Kama kuna watu wa Ghafla hapa muambie they are doing something wrong. But also to note that because last year also the Media Council started accrediting online media entities, because you are a newspaper is a platform. If you choose internet as a platform, you get accredited, trained journalists, and verify your stories, because then it allows. I know GA will tell us that they also advertise online as a media. So when you have a page in the newspaper, you can book also online. So it's a valid thing. And the mainstream media houses, they have now started offering full package, newspaper and our website, and Google Ads and all that. So people doing online advertising are not gutter press. As long as you meet the code of ethics and you align and you have your people accredited, then you have the media house also accredited, and I recognize that GAA, it's a media house. It's a media platform that is legally recognized. Internet usage. Okay, 35 TV, 31 radio, 24% social media, 4% friends and family. You know the gossipers in the village? People move from one household to another. Umesikia nini and all that. Yes, they are the people who spread almost fake news. In the village, we used to call them the people who suffer from foot and mouth disease, moving from place to place. Of course, I'm not disputing that family is important and friends to tell you whether you have seen. I read the newspaper, nimeona kwa TV and all that. Social media entertainment, 64%. Then news and networking, 59 and 53. Social media, approximately 3 hours per day. Globally, it's 2 hours, 24 minutes. So we are a little more idle than the world, isn't it? We consume more than the global average, but not by much. WhatsApp, Facebook, and YouTube. Wako hapo. WhatsApp kamekuja. Simona, it has overtaken Facebook at 27%. Then 26% is Facebook. 16 is YouTube. So if you're a good politician and you keep winning Twitter polls and you lose on the ground, just know that hauko, or you are being voted by your followers. Smartphones. I believe everybody in this room has a smartphone. Hata kama mtu akona kamulika mwizi ni kale ameficha wakati stima imepotea. 91%. So we access that. Computers, 34%. That's only when you're in the office. And 10% on normal phones. I will very easily say that even these normal phones, najua mtu ajui smart nini, isn't it? Because if a phone can do a little more, it's generally a smartphone. And then smart TVs and watches, 2%. Time spent, especially watu wa urban, 3 hours. Uko kwa matatu, uko kwa mkutano kama hapa, half of the people must be on their smartphones. What do you use social media for? Entertainment is up there. Then news and information and networking. Then there are people, there's a good percentage, almost 25%. It's a bit of a learning and passing time. The people, you're just idle, so you want to pass time.
I think
we said that about smartphones, 90%, 91%. That's the same. WhatsApp, Facebook is the place to go if you want to do something serious. To what brings us here, what the Constitution requires us to do. Public perception of the media. Levels of trust. Summarized here. 24% have little or no trust. 23 have a lot of trust. 53 have some trust. That means that as last year, 76% of Kenyans trust the media. I know last year it was 77, 78, so we haven't lost much. So 76% of Kenyans trust the media. 24%, I'm surprised that the number did not go up, because the November 30 to December 19 is a time when we were having Vita's media, you remember, isn't it? So you can see that still, despite trying to incite people generally trust the media. Television is the most trusted, 69. Radio 68, websites 56. 12% wako na shida kidogo na media. 88% wanasema hata kama tuwaamini lakini wanasaidia tu, you know. So you have an issue, but it is a source of information. Basically, a lot of our interest is what do Kenyans think about the work of the media. And it goes that then a lot of work that we will do at the Media Council in the coming months is about this, how to construct and reaffirm Kenyans' trust in the media, because then if people have no trust in the media, then what you're doing is a challenge. But we lost 1 percentage point, also attributed to the time when we did the survey. There had been, when a few politicians make such pronouncements, they tend to excite certain people, especially young people, and people can, especially the anonymous nature of surveys can make people move, but we are happy that it did not go down. We have had a decrease in the people who have trust in the media. So there's that general decrease, but still above 70. We wish it could go up to 80. We did not put a slide here. The last time we tried to compare people's perception of the media and religious leaders and government and all that, media still scores up there. There are certain areas where there is more decrease than media, so we're not doing so badly. But let's not compare ourselves with the failures. We will not put that here because then it's not within our purview. Main source of news remains television, followed by radio, family, newspapers, and social media. I think 12% of Kenyans have issues with the media. Wanapiga kelele sana, wanasema uongo, they are biased and all that. But 88% of Kenyans are comfortable with what the media is doing despite the challenges. So, Bwana Chairman, Gitagama, you notice Simba 88%. Hiyo ni A. Ama inategemea ni shule gani? Yes, first class honors. And that's what I said, it's 2019, 11, 2020 was bad, 14%. 2021 is an improvement. Only 12% have issues. And then the issues they have are very genuine ones. Limited coverage of matters concerning rural areas. So would people like KBC, Switch TV, and others move across? There is a lot of unutilized space. Too much political coverage and biased content coverage, especially in politics. Allow me to comment here. One time we were doing a media information literacy session in Eldoret, and the community member said, uenda uambie Citizen, KTN na NTV wawache kuweka siasa mingi, hatutaki hiyo maneno. So I told them, na tuko na KBC na Switch TV na family ambao wana siasa simuochi, wakasema hapana, ambia hao wawache. So I mean, it's a behavior pattern. People, they have all variety, because we have, at any one time, we have not less than 90 TVs on. I think we have other, like we have a farmers TV, we have a youth TV and all that, which don't have politics. People want the one they are watching to stop doing it. They don't want to cross over to the other one. Second is limited content. Local sports coverage is too little. That's why they follow international. Children's programs. Wanambani, you know that we have the children's program and local content. The ratios is not being enforced, and then the local content is too little. Too much English. Kizungu ni mingi, mweke vernacular kidogo na Kiswahili. I mean, it's true. I mean, most of you here, you've probably bought a TV for mom or dad or uncle in the village, isn't it? Na Kizungu tangu asubuhi mpaka jioni, sasa watafanya namna gani? Give them a little Swahili. Consumer protection. Some adverts are deemed misleading. Kama ya yule mzee wetu wa Busia, anaitwa nani? Leo? The Muganga. Victor says ni Wakambani alikuja Busia because Busia is notorious with waganga maarufu and all that. Hata Wakambani wameanza. What was the name? Kamaliza. Yeah, there's a Kamaliza guy, and they have even a PR team that stage manages the Uganga and other stuff and all that. So adverts are misleading, but also the normal adverts, corporate adverts, seem to be misleading. Gambling. School assaults and violence. I will pick that because I was summoned a while back about it. I was told, you know, the principle of monkey see, monkey do, isn't it? Shule fulani wamechoma, shule fulani watachoma, isn't it? You know what children do. Tuchome shule tuende nyumbani and all that. So we feel that it's a very delicate, dicey thing we need to balance between getting information be known and informing other people in a neighboring school that your neighboring school wamechoma shule yao. Because then they see and say, wale walichoma wakaenda nyumbani, hata sisi tumechoka, tuchome yetu and all that. And glorifying violence. Sometimes, especially wakati kuna stress, there's a lot of domestic violence. And you will notice anytime we have a case of domestic violence, we will have a spiral of up to 10, then they go down, isn't it? There's always, rarely do we have one standalone. There is one, then there is another one, and then they stop. So there's a feeling that sometime media highlighting such cases, but of course you are not, we are careful not to, avoid press freedom, or rather to infringe on that. There's a feeling that when media highlights such vices, they encourage other people to do it. Watershed period. See, hapo iko maneno inaonekana. Some soap opera programs and secular songs, and we are getting into some secular songs and political songs ziko na matusi. a lot of advertisement in between programs. Bwana SG inaonekana you have a lot of advertisement in between programs. People feel so there are too many adverts in between programs. Anasema they have bills to pay, so lazima weke adverts. And fake news. Increased coverage. Universal Service Fund, accessibility. Find a balance of topics tuzijaza po siasa sana, and media biases to maintain and express unbiased positions. Local sports. I'm only wondering whether media can cover local sports if there are no local sports. Do we have local sports to be covered? Okay. Yes? Victor has a team in Busia, so okay. I mean, the whole idea is you need to balance if you want media to cover something, isn't it? Is it there on the ground? Do we have football tournaments and all that? F1 Pigana and all that. So get local sports and increase the coverage. And that is all for today. Nipigeni makofi kidogo. Victor, am I allowed to allow one question or one reaction?
Sure, sir.
Anyone who has a burning reaction or thinks that I skipped something or wants to tell us so that in the May survey we include some topic? Professor, but start by promising, Professor, that the two professors' hands are up, that you will tell the professors to also answer questions because they ask questions only. Okay, please, one reaction. Dr.
Thank you very much for this presentation, and I'm hoping that as we think about the other report in May, that we can do some more analysis around this data. I think just a question for clarification, and I think it goes to your findings around the consumption of TV. I'm interested in what was the average age in this year's report. How does this compare to the average age in 2022? Because that has a bearing on what media they consume. I think if we just spend a little more just understanding the demographic details of your respondents, that will help us understand the findings a little better. Thank you.
Thank you. Another professor has a question.
Thank you so much.
Of the media survey, the report on the public's perception of the media. This was a report that was done by the Media Council of Kenya, and the process started on the 30th of November and ran until the 19th of December. 3,589 respondents were there, and they have given their views on radio, print, TV, online, and the reasons why they consume the media and how much they trust the media. Our reporter is Kamche Medza. She's going to be giving us a full report on that. And that survey has been presented by David Omoyo, who is the Chief Executive Officer of the Media Council of Kenya. And the event was also graced by Principal Secretary Information Esther Koimet. So Kamche Medza will be giving us details of that event, including where there has been an increase in the listenership for Radio Taifa, moving from about 3-4% of those who listen to it to around 11%, and KBC Channel 1, 8% now, down from about 2% of the sample of the number of people who were interviewed from the year 2020 moving on to 2021. A whole change, and a full report on that will be coming your way in our lunchtime news and also our consequent bulletins. It's time for Sports Check on this Monday morning, the 31st day of January 2021. The month, some say, has got 62 days, has come to a close, but the sporting conversations continue and what is going to come in the future. We shall be having 3 conversations, actually about 4 conversations. One is about rugby league, 13-a-side rugby. It's different from union. And number 2, what about securing the African footballer and making sure that they're not exploited? Then we also have got the Cricket Kenya Independent Electoral Panel. They're going to be addressing the press today from the Nyayo National Stadium. Plus, Tennis Kenya, they released a State of the Game report, their annual report yesterday, and we're expecting that Tennis Kenya President James Kenani will be joining us to tell us about the various pillars on the sport, the state of the game. We shall be moving to a first conversation. It's about Rugby League, and we're joined by the Director of Fixtures at the Kenya Rugby League Federation, is Kevin Adere. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Karibu.
Yeah. Before we continue, just to introduce my sign language interpreter, bottom right of your screen, her name is Lensa Odingo. And, Kenya Rugby League, to put it simply,
yes,
the pure differences between 15s and Rugby League, which is 13 aside.
Yes.
Good stuff. Let's just start there.
So basically, the rugby we know is union. We call it union. And then now what we have right now is a rugby league. So it's a much more simpler version of rugby. It's faster as compared to the union version, and a little bit more simpler as compared to the union version, because the union version has so much technicalities, and even like when you watch with people who say they're fans, they barely get to understand what's going on. Even us guys who have played, sometimes you get lost when the ref calls something. It's always an argument. But with league, it's faster. It's I would say more entertaining. It's sort of like sevens, because the game moves very fast as compared to the union version. Yes.
Some few aspects of this is that, yes, we have got no scrums, no mauls, no...
We have a scrum, but it's uncontested.
Yes.
Yes, there's no mauls though. Yeah, no mauls, no line-outs. Yeah, so it's a very, very quick kind of a version of rugby. Yes.
And guess what? Kenya has got a national team. They've played previously against Italy, and they also will be playing against South Africa. Frank, if you've got the message from Franz Persons, who is the CEO of Rugby South Africa, let him give that video. He actually tried to speak in Swahili. Quite interesting,
okay,
it was Kevin. And now you can tell us about how this team is going to be selected, and how the two tests that are going to be played on the 26th of March 2022
yes,
and the 2nd of April 2022 are. So Frank, if you got that, you will tell me. And the whole idea of getting it to this level.
Yes.
How has the sport been growing?
So we started our first season of competition, I would say around October last year, and we have been playing at least 2 fixtures every month, and that has been ongoing. It wasn't, the players were having a bit of mix-up on the first fixtures. So like when they go into contact, some still want to rip the ball, but it's not. So it's taken some time. But as at yesterday, when we played our last fixture, the tempo has really risen. There's more. The guys have become more aggressive and more game aware. Actually, we picked a couple of injuries that we didn't expect from that fixture yesterday. They were not that bad, but it was an indication of how aggressive it's actually grown. And even the guys who are turning up to just come and watch, we have gotten some numbers coming through. Yeah, so the interest is actually growing. Yeah.
Another aspect of the game is that you've got 5-6 attempts to make it to the to score, and if you don't do it,
yes,
there is a turn. The opposing team now gets the ball.
So yes, you get five chances to attack. When you get to the 6th, then you get to kick it to the opponent's side. Yes, so your kicker tries to kick it to the deepest end, so that when you're defending on their territory. So basically, that's like a technicality that exists in the game. Yeah, so it's just a trick, so that when you're defending in their half, but not. Yeah.
Well, Kenya will be playing against South Africa 26th of March 2022. Let's listen to Franz Persons, who's the CEO of South Africa Rugby League, speaking about the test matches that Kenya will be playing.
Yeah.
Kenyan residents My name is Frans Parsons. I am the CEO for South African Rugby League. My Kiswahili is not that good, but I'll give it my best shot. Jambo wa Kenya wote, ini South Africa Rugby League. Tuna wahotea kutoka Pretoria, tukutane Kisumu on 26 March for the first test match in the great lakeside city, alafu Nairobi for the second test on 2nd of April. Asanteni sana na tuonane. Kenya na South Africa, hakuna matata. I would like to wish you the best for this coming test series. This will be a historic test series, as this will be the first rugby league test match between the two countries. I'm sure we all will enjoy it, and the best thing is to learn from it, and may the best team win. Blessings.
Well, that is Frans Parsons. I'm sure you sent him the Swahili script.
Yes, it was sent from this side. Yeah.
So ideally, so how did this partnership come up? Because, you know, rugby league, we have it in Ghana, we have it in Nigeria, it's now being played in Kenya. South Africa have had that history of rugby union and rugby league.
Yes.
How did this conversation start?
So, just like any other sport, the international bodies are always keen to spread the brand of or your kind of a sport. If it's football, if it's rugby, okay, like football, it's a global sport. But rugby, be it union or league, we are not all over. So when the chairman, Mr. Richard, approached the international body for registration, they've been a good support coming from that end, and he commenced the registration through the sports ministry here, and we were able to get the certificates. I think that was last year. Yeah, and there's been good support coming from the international bodies. So after that, then you see the local guys who are playing league in Africa. They are also happy to welcome like a new found family member. So there had been talks between the chairman, our chairman, and Mr. Frans in South Africa, and even there's conversation with Nigeria and the other African playing countries to start organizing fixtures, because when we have fixtures playing internationally, then it's easier to start growing the brand to the local people, and starting to recruit new fans, so that fans know when they're coming to a rugby game, it's not union, it's league, and it's equally entertaining. Yeah.
One of the places where you're going to have this is Kisumu. Why the choice of Kisumu?
Just in the spirit of spreading the game from the normal circles, because you see most of the international fixtures, be it football or any other thing, they're always held up here in Nairobi. So one thing that we are keen on is to try and take it out there and introduce the game to the people out there. And there's been very good reception from the county government of Kisumu. They're really looking forward to working with us, and they've given us a very good support. And you know, plans are underway, and we're looking forward to having a launch date very soon. Yeah.
Well, actually, and as we continue the conversation, you can actually see that there is a display of one rugby league game. You can notice that how they play it is different. The moment there is a tackle, you scratch the ball, roll it backwards.
Yeah.
And
game on.
Yeah. And you also, and remember that this is a sport that made Edward Rombo very famous in the United Kingdom. Former captain of Nairobi School, and also played for Mean Machine. Went to study in the UK, played rugby league for Leeds, became a big name.
Yeah.
The other match is going to be played here in Nairobi on the 2nd of April.
Yes.
How are you now working around activating for these two tests?
So we're looking to have the press launch in Kisumu, I think later this month. Once we launch that, we have been having also conversations going on potential corporate sponsors who we are still appealing out there. If there are people who are interested in coming on board and being a part of this, we are welcome to having any kind of conversations and interests so that we can make the two tests become as big and as successful as possible, because there is the budgets that we need to cover, and of course, yeah, we'll take any kind of support.
And would like to ask now the selection process for the national team. How is this done?
So since last year, when we've been playing our fixtures, we have been pointing out potential talent. Mr. John Mbai and I have been practically in almost all the fixtures, and we have potential names. So by next month, February, we will call for our first training camp. So from whoever we have selected from the past fixtures, we'll have maybe up to 40 players coming for a full day workshop, maybe on a Sunday at a selected place. And then we just start grinding from there, from the fitness level to game awareness as we head on to match, preparing for the test matches.
The coaching staff, tell us about them.
The coaching staff currently is headed by Mr. John Mbai. He's the head of technical, the game technicalities. He's been doing workshops with the coaches and the referees. And in March, we're also having an international workshop with representatives coming from, I think, is it Dubai, who are coming here to hold coaching lessons for our coaches. Because one thing we are determined to invest in is good quality coaches who can give us good quality players. Because without good coaches, we can't get good players. Yeah.
What's happening at the moment, and from previous conversations that we've had, anytime that we talk about rugby league, it is trying to get that player who probably can make it into the first 15 or the first 23 of a Kenya Cup or Eric Charlie Shield fifth union team is now getting converted to league. So Kevin, how are you intending to downstream this so that by the time someone comes to play at the competitive level, where the rugby league, so to speak, they already are not being converted, from a 15th person to a 13-a-side team?
So there's the general belief that everybody who comes to play a league, definitely they were struggling in union. But I don't think that's what we are seeing on the ground. We have guys who are just, ever since we introduced, we have guys who are, they were playing the union version but never got to do any serious competition. But now when league came, they're more interested in playing the league. But then again, our plan is not to take people who've made a name on the the union version. We want to concentrate on growing our own, so that when someone is from high school, they've just been playing league all along. So that's why even probably the test matches that we'll have, we don't expect to have any big names from the international 15's teams. We just have the guys who we've been working with who will select. Maybe if there's someone who's interested and then they come for trials, and the technical guys, which is not me, Kina John Mbai, who decide that this guy is worthy, then they could get a chance. But we are really focused on growing our own people, so that there's nothing like we are competing with resources player-wise with the union. So we just grow our own. Yeah.
Well, it sounds like you've decided to take the path of Northern England.
Yeah.
Where, the breakaway for rugby league, which went professional, the union remained our pure amateur sport, I think, until 95 or 96.
Yeah.
Professionalizing this sport is the other thing. Yeah. Everyone wants to use sport as a key source of revenue for them. What are the opportunities?
So, we just started, but we have knowledge on how to turn this thing into an income-generating activity that people can actually rely on for livelihood. It's one of the key things that we're really, really focused on, so that after playing a couple of seasons and we have made the brand bigger, then now we can say the federation gets to sign its players and the salaries are being paid centrally, like something that is very, very, very structured nicely, and the resources are spread equally so that all the teams grow equally, so that we don't have an imbalance that when someone comes on board and this team has more finance, so then they get to win everything because they can get the best players. Yeah.
Oh, a case of English clubs being owned by Arab sheikhs.
Exactly. So the guy with the most money gets to win. So it's something that we would really love to change, so that all the teams, since we are at a privilege of having seen such kind of scenarios, and we can have the conversation like, let's do it different and more green, so that everybody grows at the same time.
So ideally, you're looking at the model that's used by the NBA in the United States, or the Major League Soccer, American, where you've a whole franchise system and probably with salary caps, where
everything is controlled, and we move on from there, so then everybody grows.
Well, talking about growing the sport, and what you had the fixtures yesterday. Tell us about the next one, because I don't want David Omoyo to speak about our local sport again. Now, CEO MCK, he's gained us enough. Tell us where you are.
So we'll have our next fixture the weekend after next. We normally have, like, we had a fixture yesterday. So then we rest this weekend, then we have another one next weekend.
That's on the 13th.
So what happens is that we have played all around robin. So then from the rankings that we have right now, we are going to go into quarters, and then semis, then finals.
Give us in details now about those clubs, the quarterfinalists you have at the moment, where the matches will be played.
So we have a table of the results. What I know is that there is Kitengela Sharks, who are at the top, followed by Wolves, and then we have Buffaloes, and then there's Nakuru and Winam. We've been having 6 active clubs.
Yes.
So basically, everybody's still
Winam are from Kisumu.
Yes.
Winam Gulf itself.
Yes. And then we have Rift Valley Ruffians, who are from Nakuru. Though there are other teams who are still in the formation stages. They have numbers, but structures are still not there as to start, because for you to start honoring fixtures, you need some financial help. So we have teams in Meru, we have in Kubu, we have a team in Western Malakisi. We have one that is supposed to come up in Nairobi, called Centurion, being led by one of our directors called Joel Nganga. So we just decided to start small with the teams that have been already training, and then once we close this fixture and this season, then now from next season, now we can top up maybe 2 other teams, and then we go as we keep on perfecting the system.
All right. The quarters, where will they be played? Most of our games in Nairobi have been held at the AP grounds in Utawala. But moving to the quarters, we might want to spice it up a bit and take it out to somewhere that is a little bit more accommodative and more commercial for the fans to come and enjoy. So it's a discussion that I think I'm going to have with the rest of the directors as soon as we are done here, so we can pick up a place and start to come up with a package that is much more interesting for people to come and watch and be entertained. Well, the Kenya Rugby League Federation also has decided that they are going to go a little bit big, and they've decided to pull one huge rugby festival from the 9th to the 17th of July. 9 days of rugby, and this is not in Nairobi. not in Mombasa, not in Kisumu, not in Eldoret, not in the newest city Nakuru, but in Samburu. Where did this idea come from?
Again, in the same mindset of trying to push the boundaries to new areas. So the idea of Samburu Rugby came, and with that so KRLF is the local federation partner to this event, sports partner. But the event is being run by World Sports Safaris. So World Sports Safaris is a company that is registered in the UK and Kenya, and looking to have such kind of rugby events in new places throughout the world. So not only in Samburu, but maybe in Kuala Lumpur, a new area where the normal IRB circuit doesn't go to, but there's a lot of rugby market. Yeah, and Kenya is one of the places. So in the heart of all this, there is rugby, there is conservation, and there is tourism. So it's a very good green relationship between those three structures, because the conservancies up north, the host conservancy called the Kalama Conservancy, one of their main plans, or I think conservancies in general, is to be financially independent, so that they can generate their own money and be independent from the donors. So Kalama, the hosting conservancy, who have partnered up with the World Sports Safaris and Kenya Rugby League Federation and given us land to have this event, they're really happy to do this, because as compared to the other conservancies that are up north, they are nearing that financial independence dream with this event coming through. Because when we do the Samburu Rugby, it's going to have a sports facility staying there, and it's something that can be used by any sports federation to come and prepare teams, national team, even the union, the football guys. You can go there, pay money, and it's money that is going to the conservancy, and they can use that to do their own jobs, and start relying less from the donor fundings.
Let me talk about this event. You've decided to go big. I mean, you said you're breaking the limits. 60 teams. Yeah. Including probably tier 2 and 3 level national teams, which ideally means that teams going for the Commonwealth Games may not make it because of the playbooks. But how do you want to manage this? I'll use the Safari Sevens. Okay. 16 teams. Causes, I mean, you can see the activity around it. You're going 4 times the size. So it's going to be a big event. Probably bigger than Safari Sevens. So we are making 3 pitches to accompany all these teams. We are minimum of 60 teams, and then there are nations like Sweden and the ones who are not in the IRB circuit who keep on looking for action. And they're really, really excited to come and play here. So there's been very good feedback from those nations. And even clubs based in the UK, United States, Dubai, we've had feedback even from Japan and even Monaco. Guys who are looking forward, they're curious to see what's happening. So as we keep on breaking ground and unveiling the plans, there's more inquiries and teams expressing interest to come and play. All right. Kevin, thank you very much, and we wish you all the best. That's a very good idea for disappearing from Nairobi and get to watch some sport there. Kevin Adere, he is the director of fixtures at the Kenya Rugby League Federation. Remember, the 26th of March in Kisumu, Kenya versus South Africa, 13-a-side rugby, and on the 2nd, they will be in Nairobi for the 2nd test. Kenya versus South Africa, the first time they are playing that, and the Samburu Sevens happening from the 9th to the 17th of July. 9 days of rugby festival out in the bush. Thank you very much, Kevin.
Thank you.
We shall be taking a short break, and when we get back, let's get into a conversation that may have almost gotten lost in translation. Arsene Wenger triggered it at the CAF Congress. People are asking, how come a little bit of that conversation hasn't been followed? It's just about the Biennial World Cup. How do you secure the career of an African footballer? The conversation is next.
Tusirudi nyuma kwa mipaka na nchi kufungwa. Tusirudi kwa biashara na shule kufungwa. Kwa kutoweza kukutana. Kwa kutengana na tuwapendao. Tusirudi nyuma.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendelee na maisha vizuri.
Na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Na kuhitaji unikinge,
Pata chanjo.
na kuhitaji unikinge,
Pata chanjo.
na kuhitaji unikinge, pata chanjo.
Ili tuendeleze maisha bora kwa ajili ya wapendao, nchi yetu na usoni wetu. Kwa ajili yetu sisi sote. Pata chanjo. Kaa chonjo. Kuhakikisha nchi yetu na uchumi wetu umestawi katika uwazi. Tusirudi nyuma.
Welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It is the last day of January 2022. My name is Daniel Wahome. Our sign language interpreter at this hour is Ann Wangeshi. We shall be getting into a conversation about securing the careers of African footballers. But before that, news updates that we have got from our newsroom. There has been a case of fatalities on the Arabia-Mandera Highway. A bus hit an IED and not less than 5 people have lost their lives. That's but one of the stories that we are going to be taking a look at. So the Mandera attack, more than 7 people are feared dead, and this is after an improvised explosive device was planted on a road and a bus went over it along the Arabia-Mandera Highway. Shall we take a look at that story, a tragedy, that news of a tragedy that we've received this morning. And also, the Media Council of Kenya today, they've released the State of the Media Survey that was done this morning. We shall be giving you that story. And the story also that we are keeping up on from the sporting front is that the independent electoral panel that has been set up by the Cricket Kenya Normalizing Committee will be making an announcement today about their role and how the election slated for the 26th of February 2022 will be conducted, the regulations, the people who qualify, and the counties or members of Cricket Kenya who qualify to participate in the election. Fred Moki is our reporter. He's at the National Stadium. Once the panel is ready, he's going to give us insight into that. Let us now move on to a second conversation. And last year, during the extraordinary CAF Congress, which was basically put up and is best remembered for being the forum at which the Biennial World Cup was endorsed by African FA presidents, Arsene Wenger did speak about African footballers and the whole setup around it. And one of the things that came was how much value is gained in about 2 or 3 years. Let's listen to Arsene Wenger speaking about youth development and players and what needs to be done for player security.
Now it should be better, yes. Yeah. Good morning, everybody. As Patrice said, I'm with Stephen Martins, who is head of technical department at FIFA. I'm head of football development, world football development, and that's why we are here today. I must say, personally, my life is linked with a long love story with Africa. And looking back at my career, it has been successful, basically, always with cooperating with African players through my whole career. And so I feel a little bit I have a debt towards Africa, and I have to give something back to this continent who has helped me so much during my career. We, as head of football development, I thought first, what can I do? Let's first see in what shape is world football. And we made a long inquiry to see how can we help every single country, what is missing in every single country. And we went for an analysis, a diagnosis of the whole world to see how can we help. You know, here you see that all over the world, we have been in 205 countries, and 100%, what is positive in Africa, 100% of the African countries subscribed to have an analysis of their needs.
So Arsene, we will talk about the future of football and how the competition structures, how the...
Well, that's Arsene Wenger. He says he has a debt, and the whole thing is that an analysis was done. But some of the things that came out are things that are about the security of the player. And we are joined by Brian Wesala. He is the founder of the Football Foundation for Africa. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you very much, Daniel.
Yes, and you know, the story of the Football Foundation Africa, you call it FFA, started in 2015 after the death of Alan Onyango. You could just give us a background story for that.
Sure. First of all, thank you for having me on Sports Tech. Regarding the foundation, yes, the story dates back to 2015 when I lost one of my teammates. We played together at Strathmore University FC during that time up to the NSL. And yeah, just to fast forward, he lost his life in 2015 in Dar es Salaam quite tragically. And this is what kind of triggered me to start thinking more seriously about my own career, my life, and what I wanted to do. By then, I was still working in IT within the international development sector. But then I felt there was something I could do, especially for the continent of Africa. So I started by organizing a tournament. We call it Obama Cup. His nickname was Obama. Alan Onyango, his nickname was Obama. And from the reception I received in organizing this tournament, because starting from the second edition, I started to theme it tackling unemployment through sports, because of something I observed in football during my playing careers, and also afterwards. There is a way as footballers we would fashion ourselves just as footballers, but Africa or Kenya was not offering us the right opportunities. So you'd find a lot of footballers would probably neglect their overall development, their education, and this kind of thing, with the hope of making it big one day, be it locally, but more so in the foreign leagues in Europe. You know, most African footballers, they have that dream of playing in Europe, but it rarely materializes because the opportunities are just not there. There are very few. Even within the European setup itself, we know, for example, in England, out of the 1.5 million kids that are engaged at the grassroots level, only 0.012 make it to the Premier League level. So you can imagine the situation in Africa. It's even much worse. So it was this in mind that I started organizing this tournament, and that gave birth to the Football Foundation for Africa.
Let's talk about the story of Alan, because he moved to Tanzania. That's where he died, because he never had any opportunities here. And after university, what were the opportunities that would have been there for him and his movement to TZ?
Of course, we can't speculate much since we were not with him, and we are not really aware of how we made this move to Dar es Salaam. But you can try and picture how things. This is somebody who is just about to graduate from university. He is a very talented footballer. So he had these two options open to him. He could go into a professional career. He was also doing IT like myself. Or he could have turned out one of the league teams here, as our coach used to refer to him then as his national team material. That's how good he was.
Your coach was
Mickey Weche, former FC Leopards Harambee Stars player. Anyway, this moving to Dar es Salaam, you can imagine it was because probably he was struggling to make ends meet here in Kenya, and that's why he decided to make this move. We don't know what happened, but it ended up tragically for him outside there.
Well, and the memory for him is what has driven you here. Now, first of all, let's talk about some of the risks that come for players, African players at this level. One of them is the agent. How do you mitigate against rogue intermediaries? Because they are the people who will do transfers, who will try fix a player here and there, but you find that at times the player loses.
So this the agency business, I think we have to go back and think why has this happened in the African football industry. And you can date back to the early 90s when teams like Cameroon performed very well at the World Cup, and that's when the global market started to see Africa as a place where they could source for talent, and in this case they could source for talent cheaply. So that in itself attracts different kind of business people, if you can say that, because everybody is out to make money. But this shift was not accompanied by regulation. You know, this shift where people have realized, okay, there's a talent here, there's a market here where we can source for players and sell them abroad for bigger money, was not accompanied by regulation, especially from the continent, you know, because if you look at this as labor movement, then even organizations like the AU, our government, they should play a stronger role in regulating the space. So this has not happened. And as a result, these agents, they were previously called football intermediaries, now it's changing back again to agents. They have kind of flourished on the continent, and some of course are doing well, connecting players to opportunities and making sure players, but in Africa especially, a majority are out to make a quick buck and they don't really care about the player. So most of them are also coming from outside because of what we call an asymmetry of information. You know, they understand what's happening in Europe, where your services could be needed, and then they come to Africa now to source for this talent. And for us who are in Africa, probably you don't understand very well what's happening on the other side. So that opens up our players to a lot of exploitation, because most of them are desperate. They want to move, they want to make careers out of football. So if you come and tell me you're going to take me to a third-tier team in Slovakia, and I'm not doing anything here, I mean, I will take up the opportunity. And that's happening even now in 2022, you find a lot of people contacting me, asking me, how can we get players to these leagues? But the conditions there, we're not even sure of them. And if you find now it's a player that has been tapped maybe at the age of 17, 18, they're being told, okay, you can move to Europe. Because of this lack of information, lack of knowledge, they're very eager to take up these opportunities. And a lot of them are ending up exploited, either here in the continent, they never make it there, or they go there and they find that what they were promised is not happening. We have players who have to split salaries with agents and this kind of thing. So there is just no enough education and regulation in the football transfer market.
The question then I would like to ask is, and I would use the case of Gor Mahia, the transfer market is regulated. It's through one system, the transfer matching system that is run by FIFA. So there is one regulation for all the 209 member federations of FIFA. Because Gor Mahia, had theirs authorized, but they were not. They had not been allowed to make any transfers. So that means they can't sign a player until next year. The question then is how much education is being given downstream to players, if it's at academies or the feeder clubs.
So there is no much information, as I said earlier. There's no education going into this space, even for the clubs or for the players. So you find that it's individuals who have invested in themselves to understand the transfer market, and they take advantage of that. And these are mainly the agents, the football intermediaries who are working in this space. And you know, something else that happened previously, FIFA was regulating the football agent business. That means they would give certification for the same, and to some extent also provide some education. But this changed. I can't remember the exact date, but it changed. And they they gave this responsibility to the federations. And when this happens, even with the federations themselves, they are not empowered or educated to be able to handle this business. And so what happened, the federation saw it as an opportunity just to make money. For you to become a licensed intermediary, you pay something to the federation, but there's no education as such, and there's no education of the entire system. So that opens up the whole market to unscrupulous dealers, because there are people who see opportunity in everything. It might not be positive, but they see an opportunity and they take advantage of it.
The other thing is, and I'd seen you write about this, was about academies and the varieties we have. You hear Arsene Wenger, I mean, they speak about what African football has done for him. He's forever thankful to ASEC Mimosas. But how then would you look at the academies, and is there a need for firmer regulation as set out, for example, in the FKF Constitution?
Yes, I think there is need for stronger regulation in that space as well, just as in the agency, in the business. And Arsene Wenger, in that at the 13th Extraordinary CAF Congress, he talks about it. He says there is federations, but there is academies, but the federations don't know how to manage these academies. So again, academies is another space where we have opened up football to private investors, and these can take, they usually say it takes like four shapes. We have the private academies that are set up by individuals, ad hoc. Here in Kenya, you see a lot of ad hoc academies. We have those that are being set up by clubs, so these Euro-Africa relationships. And then we have special programs like what we had with the Aspire Academy, where they set up academy and they set up this program to come and harvest talent, more or less, and ship it out, with the plan of selling it further when it has value. So there is definitely need for us to regulate this space better, because this is a platform where a lot of our young people are being engaged, but we don't know what kind of education is going there. From the football education to education for life. If I'm putting together 50 kids in an academy, chances are that only one will make it out of that academy and play professional football.
Yes.
What are you doing with the other 49? Are you giving them a conducive environment for them to continue to develop as people? Are you educating them so that they can take up opportunities not only in the sport but also outside? So these are the kind of things that even through the Football Foundation for Africa, I'm trying to bring attention to. Let's bring more holistic education to these football academies. Let's see how we can support them, because the other measure we can take is to try and kind of punitive, like let's shut down these academies and make sure. But you can't do that, since you find that also there's a lot of people of goodwill who are putting together their resources, putting together these kids and trying to train them in football. So they need support. What they need is support and not just strong regulation.
You've mentioned about the Aspire Academy, and there have been conversations around it. Is that model that being funded by Qatar through Aspire? I think there's one on center in Senegal, and there's the other one in Qatar. Is it taking away the flavor of African football? I mean, the rhythm, and we are beginning to look more European structure, so much concentration on methods and trying to stay within a particular pattern with very little room for flair.
Yeah, I think the programs like Aspire, for me, they were very experimental, if I can say this. You know, you get into a continent, and you have this person who spotted Messi, and you're out to get the next Messi or Ronaldo in Africa. So you have these very expansive program bring talent, organize tournaments and this kind of thing, and look at what am I going to find out of all this. So if you've read the away game by Sebastian Adbot, he really describes what happened to the Aspire Academy. Very few of those kids actually made it to the top.
It's true.
Despite a lot of heavy investment by the Qataris. And that's why I think the program has not scaled as probably they thought it would. So you see, this is they're taking a very business approach to this thing, and which for me is unfortunate. I think we should try and taper the commercialized nature of football with a bit of social development, because you're basically taking these kids out of the environment and nature are used to, and with the guise of giving them better opportunities. But most of those kids went back and all that. When you talk about flair and losing the African style of football, you know, now you have to be packaged for the global market. You know, it doesn't matter how creative or how... Now you have been...
one size fits all.
One size fits all. No, you are central defensive midfielder, and you train for that because that's what we want to sell. And you see Africans, for example, we are mostly in certain positions. You'll find strikers, central defensive midfielders, and out on the wing because of speed and strength. It's only now that we are seeing the likes of Mendy now at the AFCON, who's managed to make a breakthrough in the goalkeeping sector. So this kind of thing I
mean, we've had others, Carlos Kameni, we also have Andre Onana.
Yeah, but not that many. For example, in the playmaking role, we had like the likes of JJ Okocha. You know, for example, like our own Victor Wanyama. He was a very creative player. I happened to play against him while he was here. But he seemed to have lost some of that during his time in Europe because he was fashioned into this defensive midfielder, losing a bit of flair. So that has happened to a lot of African players with these commercialized nature of sports football development.
You mentioned about Aspire, trying to turn somebody into a high value. Same at that CAF Congress. Wenger spoke about some very unusual numbers. The average transfer fee for a player coming from Africa, but leaving Africa going to Europe, is about 300,000 euros. But what shocked him was the second transfer, the next transfer. It was 3 million euros, 10 times the value. What exactly happens? Or are we having a scenario or similar to what we have with soda ash or coffee and tea?
Yeah, I think it's the same scenario, really. Africa is that place where you get raw material, take it outside, add value for 2 to 3 years, and then sell it now to the global market. So you see, for example, a transfer, for example, from Senegal to Belgium, because that's what they're doing now. You know, you have an academy in Africa, then you have this club in Europe, not in the biggest leagues, but in this Belgium, probably which other countries? Sweden, Norway. You see that transfer value there, because in Africa it's easy to come and tell someone I'll give you 300,000 euro, and they will quickly accept this money, not knowing the kind of the value that can be ascribed to this player. So they move them across to a country like Belgium, where they play for 2 years. And now when they sell them on, that's where the real money is. That's where the big money is. Of course, FIFA have tried very well to work out these compensation and solidarity payment mechanism, but I still think more should be done in terms of dictating how much gets back to the continent. Because the other challenge is, usually these players move at a very young age, at 18. So their value is not yet that high. So it's an issue of time. By the time they get to their prime, they have already been playing in Europe, and that's where the big money is. But if we look at this calculation, we put a bit more thought into it, then we can start to demand for more, or to ask for more to come back into the continent, and not into private hands, which is also the other challenge now we have. Because a lot of this money that is in the transfer business is ending up in private hands. Probably not even in Africa, because it's somebody who has come from outside and set up an academy and has a club there. So you can see it doesn't support the development of football on the continent.
Well, Brian Wesala, he's explained it very well. Brian, thank you very much for your time this morning, telling us, about it securing the African player and the risks that must be mitigated through the academy system, the intermediaries, and also identifying the true value of a player. We shall be taking a short break, and when we get back, let's talk about the state of the game of tennis in Kenya. They released their annual report, and Tennis Kenya President James Kenani is going to be joining us shortly.
Does it make your heart feel good?
Ayub Ogada is regarded as one of the greatest Kenyan artists of all time. While in high school, Ayub composed Kothbiro, an adaptation of a traditional song that would eventually wind up in his album Enmano Kuoyo. His interest in DJing began at an early age of 13 while listening to some of Kenya's pioneer DJs, and in particular his interest was the veteran DJ Pinye.
Because I love music so much, I don't know when I'll stop. I try to stop it, backfire.
Happy birthday, DJ Pinye.
The song that we are going to be celebrating today or jamming to today is none other than Unconditional Love by Arrow Boy. This is just the perfect song for February.
Unconditional love, unconditional love, nakupenda unconditionally.
And welcome back to Sports Check on this Monday morning. It's the last day of January 2022. We're keeping up with the news as it's happening all around the country and also having conversations around sport. Right now, let's move on to a conversation about a federation that released their report for 2021. And also this year, they will be turning 100. We're talking about Tennis Kenya, and we're joined by the federation's president, James Kenani. Thank you and welcome.
Most welcome. Thank you.
First of all, I've been looking at that report, and just to pick out some of the things from it is the 6 pillars that you're talking about. But also last year, 7 teams to represent Kenya in various events around the world, and 4 of those teams sponsored by the government of Kenya. Let's start with, from the sporting side, and you cannot fail to mention Angela Okutoye.
Sure, very sure. Yes. We are 100 years old this year and arranging the celebrations. As regards to 2021, we did have this COVID ravaged our sports, actually. We were not able to run all the events which we had planned, and all over the world there were restrictions. So it was also very difficult to send our teams abroad because of the COVID protocols. But nevertheless, we were able to send some junior events to the particularly to the CAN, the Confederation of African Nations. And it is as a result of Angela winning the African Championships in Tunisia that she was able to get the ticket to play in a Grand Slam event in Australia. So we also did send some wheelchair tennis. They went to to Portugal, they played. They went to Nigeria, they again played, and that improved their ranking in the world. So at least those two did make achievements, and other junior events, the 12 and under, we sent them to Uganda, where they played, and they kept on earning points. But it's not to the magnitude that we had planned because of the COVID problem.
Well, that is the player, and that's one of the pillars that we talk about competitions. We'll come back to it, but one of the pillars that you put out is player development from your report.
Yes.
Tell us how you're working around this.
What we call player development is the possibility or the exercise of having to identify talented players at a very young age. There is a program which happily is sponsored by International Tennis Federation called Junior Tennis Initiative. We refer to it as JTI. This is really the fishing ground for players in the country. This is where we get to know who are good. Now, that means we have 25 schools countrywide where we send our coaches to have a look at what is happening, work up with the schools themselves a program which allows their kids to come out and train. And once they train, or we hold camps, training camps as well, then we do recognize where talent is. And those who are selected as being talented are given more intensive coaching. So you work in conjunction with the coaches. We did launch a coaching commission, which really is a part of Tennis Kenya, which specializes in coaching, identifying talent, and helping us grow. So we have various age groups at which the children are taken. At about 4, 5 years, 6 years, that's about it. If they're beyond 6 years, it's unlikely that they'll be very strong players in the future. So we identify talent at a fairly early age.
And when you're bringing them through the development, the other thing is a competition. How then do you get them competitive outside of just, for example, you've had the ITF juniors in Nairobi over the past week.
Yes.
How are you getting them engaged in competitions?
We do have a calendar of events that we produce fairly early, and then we do record those children as part of our teams, and the parents help them as well so that they got a number, IP number, it's identification personal number, whereby they start entering their children in the events as per the calendar. At the same time, International Tennis Federation also has programs that run in Africa, and we tend to, for example, the zonals. We play against Uganda, we play against Tanzania, the countries that are within Africa. And beyond that, they also are invited. If they are good and have qualified, they are invited to more competitive countries in Europe where they play. And this is where we tend to have a problem, because we need air tickets for the kids to travel. We need a coach to travel. We need physiotherapists to travel. You know, the management personnel and technical personnel that will go and observe how these kids are performing, and then arrange special programs for them to be trained and work on their weaknesses and also work on their strengths. So we end up having a team. Also, we apply, because ITF does announce that International Tennis Federation does announce that countries are given the freedom to apply to host those tournaments in-house, so that we have foreign players coming to Kenya, for example. Now, that's where you also take advantage, because while we can only send a very limited number out there to play out of the country, we tend to have a large cluster of kids to play here in Kenya. And it's a great advantage when you host a tournament, because then you are able to reach a wider participation from our players.
Well, James Kenani is the president of Tennis Kenya, telling us about the pillars around the sport from their annual report. The other one is the World Cup of Tennis. On the men's side, it's a Davis Cup, and the women's is the Billie Jean Cup. And the team that was in the Davis Cup, they played in Egypt in August in the Africa Group 3, looking for promotion to enter Euro Africa Group 2.
Yes.
And for the women, they're also in the Euro Africa Group 3. What about these two huge competitions?
The Davis Cup is a World Cup of tennis. It's really, as far as countries are concerned, that is the only event where they can play at the highest level. And even some professional tennis players, people who are well known, like Roger Federer, Djokovic, end up playing that kind of event. Djokovic had a few problems down there in Australia where Angie was playing. Now, this event, each country is allowed to participate, but you have to be at a certain level. They are now group 4 is the lowest level. And Kenya is not playing the Group 4 league. We are playing the Group 3 league. Fortunately, the ministry did assist us and work with us the previous time when we were hosting the event here in Kenya. And we were promoted Group 2. And that was a real great achievement to go to World Group 2. But when it came, there were changes in the format. We had to go outside and play Indonesia. In order to play against those who had been dropped from Group 1. So we want to meet them in Group 2.
A playoff system?
Yes, a playoff, it's a playoff. We didn't receive the support we had expected, and so we did not prepare adequately. We lost. So because we lost, we stayed in Group 3. Then now comes last year, when we had to go to Egypt once again to play, fighting to stay in Group 3. We played well, I must say so, but we had very little time to prepare our players because all these activities require resources. We did not hold any events where we could charge entry fee so as to fund our activities. So we depended on the sports fund. Unfortunately, they were not able to help us to the extent that we wanted, and the money came rather late. Although we had applied, in fact, from the previous year's budget. So we had about 2 weeks or so of preparation. And when you go and play at that level, just 2 weeks of preparation, you can't deliver the results. Our boys did try, and we lost by a point. Had we beaten Côte d'Ivoire, and Benin, sorry.
Benin, yes.
When they came here in Kenya the previous year, and we thrashed them.
Yes.
We had prepared well. Actually, we had received also fairly good support from GOK, Sports Fund. But this year, it didn't work. They just won us by 1 point. They just beat us by 1 point. And so we're staying in Group 3. We have not been promoted to Group 2.
All right. I want to move on to...
As regards Billie Jean Cup.
Yes.
This is a women's competition. This used to be called Fed Cup. Now, it's named after the legendary Billie Jean King, the lady who has invested very heavily in women's tennis. Our country did participate, but in the Euro Africa zone, but we were beaten thoroughly. Again, lack of proper training, lack of preparation, and essentially because of lack of funding. Because we have people who are willing to play. They are there. But you see, they need transport to get home, to get to the field. We need also a home where they can play from. Now, we have to borrow courts from Nairobi Club. They are not ours. We don't have public courts which belong to the federation. In Kenya, we don't have public courts. We have just private courts. Now, it's a strange arrangement. You don't have full control of when to play and where to play it and at what time. All those are complicating factors. We thought we had made a success when the Tennis Federation President, David Haggerty, visited Kenya. And that was the first time an ITA president visited Kenya. They had recognized something is happening in Kenya. Our president received him, and it was agreed that we will have our sports ground within the perimeter of the Kasarani.
Yes, because every federation is supposed to get some allocation, so that if it's cricket, they can have their ground.
Yes.
Motorsport have their track.
Yes.
Now, swimming use the aquatic center. So you're supposed to have a tennis center.
Yes. Unfortunately for us, this is still stalling. It hasn't moved on. We do hope, because actually if it moves on, we shall transform tennis in Kenya. And as regards the training, I think there's something I need to point out. Why, for example, Angie was able to come out. We had established the High Performance Center. International Tennis Federation has only about 3 high performance centers in the world. Burundi was hosting the High Performance Center. It was requested by the ITF that we transfer it to Kenya when they had internal difficulties in the country. And we applied to the ministry here in Kenya, and they allowed us. They said, yes, we can host them. So when this center came to Kenya, our tennis grew dramatically. That's how Angie was able to rise from the ashes, because we were really down there. Now, there are also the boys who came up and were just about to pick up when unfortunately, I don't know, the government was not able, I mean sports fund, because really it's sports fund. Sports fund were not able to meet the cost of hosting that high performance center. It has since been transferred and is likely to be opened in Egypt. So we will lose that opportunity, and that makes it very difficult for our kids to go out in Egypt, live there, and get the level of training which is necessary to compete at the international level. We have that problem. Let me conclude about the Billie Jean Cup.
Yes.
Now, arrangements have been made. We are asking that we have an Africa group, so that when our ladies go there, they don't get whipped by more advanced teams. That requires infrastructure within our countries, so that we can raise the standard and can compete.
Okay. Finally, disability sport. Wheelchair tennis is a key pillar for you. Tell us about this as we conclude.
Wheelchair tennis is very exciting. Fortunately, we have some embassies that support us, like the Australian embassy. They have been very active in supporting us. We have the Nigerians who also host us. There's a corporate company there, Puma I think it's called, that gives us funds. Now, and the government has been very good, I must say. Sports Fund has been giving us support for wheelchair tennis. And we can't complain about resources when it comes to wheelchair tennis. What we are working on is making a more professional team, which is transitioning out while the junior team, the shadow team, comes in. And we've started that in Machakos and Thika, where the challenged can actually come in and play tennis. Now, that means we have to hold workshops there. We have to hold training events there, so that they can learn how to play wheelchair.
Overall, the outlook as you celebrate 100 years, what's in store for the world of tennis in Kenya?
We are happy that it has coincided with Angie coming up as the first Kenyan to play at the Australian Open, a Grand Slam. You know, there are only 4 tournaments in the world. That is Australia, Paris, London, and then Wimbledon,
and the US Open.
And then the US Open. And for someone at her level, she was 17. On the day she arrived in Kenya, she turned 18. But she was playing as a 17-year-old, alone. There was not even a coach, because we could not afford to send a coach along. I can almost guarantee that if we had sent the coach along with her, she would have done better. So we're looking forward to this 100 years with a lot of hope and belief that this talent is going to be recognized and nurtured. Now, among other things, for example, tomorrow we are bringing Angie to play against the toddlers who have just started picking.
At our homecoming?
Yes, as part of our homecoming. On Wednesday, we shall give another one by Tennis Kenya now. And we do hope that the Ministry of Sports will join us.
All right. Thank you very much. James Kenani is the president of Tennis Kenya, telling us about, they're celebrating 100 years. And by the way, tune in on Saturday on Game On with Amfarapidi. Angela Okutoi will be here. Tomorrow and Wednesday, she will be on with our news team out there as she celebrates her homecoming. Thank you very much. Let us now, time for me to leave, and coming up next is Kurunzi ya Mashinani. And right now, let's join as we go out Cabinet Secretary Amina Mohammed, who is down
Ambassador
in Mombasa, and the conversation is about
PS
and culture. She's there in her capacity as Cabinet Secretary, Sports, Culture and Heritage. I am Daniel Wahome. Have a good day.
Thank you. You didn't give me the opportunity to say thank you to
on the
all
podium
those
with
that
us, and I'd just like to recognize all of them, including the CEOs of various state agencies and institutions, heads of corporations, development partners, and I know that the representative of GIZ is here with us. Please feel extremely welcome. So, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, I would like to officially welcome all of you to this forum on a subject matter that I know you also believe is of great historical significance to all of us. This conference, which is being held under the theme Kenya's ABS Journey, high-level forum on access and benefit sharing, arising from sustainable utilization of indigenous knowledge and genetic resources, unlocking a new subsector of the economy, offers a unique opportunity for national discourse on harnessing indigenous knowledge and genetic resources as a new growth area, a new growth focus of our economy. This high-level forum brings together key players, including representatives of indigenous peoples and local communities who are the holders and owners of the indigenous knowledge and traditionally accumulated skills. We also have representatives from academia, universities and research institutions, representatives from the business sector, and we want to thank them for the role that they have continually played in incubation and commercialization of scientifically validated indigenous knowledge, intellectual assets. County and national government representatives, I want to thank them for their policy, their legal and administrative role, and international development partners who support and oversee best practices across the board. Ladies and gentlemen, globally, the creative economy is valued at $2.5 trillion, which is approximately 255 trillion Kenya shillings, and accounts for about 30 million jobs. It's for this reason that in April of 2020, His Excellency President Uhuru Kenyatta provided 100 million Kenya shillings to cushion the cultural and creative sectors from the vagaries of the COVID-19 pandemic through the Work for Pay program. We were able through that program to support indigenous people, artists, musicians, actors, and other players from the creative sector during the tough economic times that resulted from the cessation of movement, from closure of exhibition centers and spaces, tourist attraction sites, cancellation of concerts and social events, and all this in an effort to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Our history is illuminated by tales of artistic prowess and cultural richness that is really and truly unique to us, making Kenya the perfect destination for archaeologists, cultural anthropologists, and international tourists. From the expansive region of northern Kenya to the shores of the Kenyan coast, from the unadulated landscapes of Rift Valley to the broad plains of western Kenya and the rest of the country, our people are known to be proud owners and proud participants in their cultural heritage. Indeed, it's been said that people without the knowledge of their past history, origin, and culture is like a tree without roots. So our appreciation for our culture could be attributed to our deeper knowledge and acceptance and conviction that mwacha mila ni mtumwa. And that means, and I think all of us understand Kiswahili, so I don't think I'm going to translate that. But for our colleague and friend from the GIZ who I had speaking Kiswahili, it translates to one who abandons his or her culture is a slave. My ministry, ladies and gentlemen, is awake to the fact that we need to protect, to preserve, and to develop and nurture our heritage and our cultural and our culture. And that's why we've put in place measures to protect intellectual property, to protect genetic resources and traditional knowledge, and to grow their prominence at the local, regional, and international levels. We believe that the utilization of indigenous knowledge and genetic resources will harness the socio-economic potential of this subsector. It's said that after all, without culture and the relative freedom that it implies, society, even when perfect, is but a jungle. As a ministry, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, we're in the process of operationalizing the Protection of Traditional Knowledge and Cultural Expressions Act of 2016 to promote innovation and generate intellectual assets for the marketplace, contribute to developing the indigenous knowledge and genetic resources subsector as a new growth area of our economy at the community, at the county, and at the national levels. Furthermore, the ministry is initiating the rollout of indigenous knowledge documentation and digitization as a pilot program in 13 counties to establish community and county digital registers and a national digital repository of indigenous knowledge associated assets. On this note, I would like to recognize the definite strides that have been made by sister ministries and connected entities, guided by the various international instruments, such as the Convention on Biological Diversity, the Cartagena Protocol, the Nagoya Protocol, the WIPO treaties, CITES, UNESCO, and ILO instruments, as well as various other regional agreements, such as those under ARIPO, to create the required ecosystem that enables the creation of policy, of legal and administrative frameworks as the critical foundational steps in Kenya's ABS journey.